Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 18th, 2024. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present for this evening's meeting are at City Hall and on Zoom. We also have staff from the city attorney and clerk's offices, as well as the city planning department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take any questions until the public testimony portion. If you have any process questions during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. With that, we will begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chairperson Seal. Commissioner Lorcher,
Present.
Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Present.
Commissioner Sandoval, we didn't hear your reply.
Present.
Great, thank you.
Chairperson Seal.
Here. All right, so first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. We have two items on here. The application for the gateway at 10 Mile, which is file number H 2024-0010, will be open for the sole purpose of continuing to another regularly scheduled meeting in the future. It will be open for that purpose only. So if anybody is here for the gateway at 10 Mile, we will not be taking public testimony on that this evening. We are also going to move item number 3 to the end of the agenda this evening. And with that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have two items on the consent agenda. We need to approve the minutes of the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We also have findings of facts, conclusions of law for Black Rock Coffee, H 2024-0011. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll get back to that one. All right. So at this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how items adhere to our comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up in advance to testify. You'll need to state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen and you will run the presentation with assistance from the clerk if needed. If you have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group, like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. When you are finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we generally do not call people back up. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for item number H 2023-0043 for Bladen subdivision. We will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Give me just a moment here and I'll get the presentation up. Alrighty, the applications before you tonight are a request for annexation and zoning, preliminary plat, and a conditional use permit. The property consists of 35.9, .29 acres of land zoned RUT in Ada County and is located off the southwest corner of North Black Cat Road and West Chinden Boulevard at State Highway 2026. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation for this property is mixed-use regional on the northern 25 acres and medium-density residential on the southern 10 acres. The applicant I don't know what to do then. Okay. So the applicant is requesting to be allowed, are we good, Dean? Okay. I normally talk loud. That usually isn't an issue. I don't want to blast your ears out and everybody else in the room. The applicant is requesting to be allowed to use the abutting mixed-use regional future land use map designation on 50% of the medium-density residential designated area. And you can see by the diagram right here, the 50% the applicant is wanting to be applied to this bottom portion right here. The comp plan does allow for such requests when determined appropriate and approved as part of a public hearing with a land development application. The applicant believes this extension of the mixed-use regional designation on 5 of the 10 acres of the medium-density residential designated area will allow for an ideal and suitable mix of commercial uses near major transportation arterials. The applicant is requesting annexation of 38.58 acres of land with 5.9 acres of R8, 1.83 acres of R15, 16.71 acres of R40, and 14.15 acres of CG zoning for the development of 312 multifamily apartment units, 10 townhome units, and 4 commercial lots. A holding area is proposed on the southern portion of the annexation area for future development. A portion of this area is where the applicant requests the MUR future land use map designation is extended with CG zoning for future development of a mid-box retail building and an office park as shown on the proposed concept plan. Staff is requesting the applicant revise the concept plan for the holding area to swap places with the mid-box retail store and the office use. And I don't know if you can see, it's kind of faint on this drawing, but the mid box is right here and staff is asking him to put it over here and the office use over here instead. So that the retail store is situated along Black Cat Road and the office use is located internal adjacent to the future single-family residential uses for a better transition in land uses and consistency with the concept diagram in figure 3D of the comprehensive plan. Staff also recommends a change to the zoning in this area from CG to LO for the office park, which will provide a better transition in zoning and result in a development that's more compatible with adjacent residential uses, form-wise as well as with the hours of business operation. Staff is also recommending changes to the concept plan to include the following: a relocation of the plaza area on the south side of Ramblin further to the south in a more central location for the future office park away from the collector street for better integration and access. Details for the plaza and open space areas in the commercial portion of the development on the north side of Ramblin to demonstrate consistency with the mixed-use guidelines in the comp plan that require such areas to be centers of activity and be activated with permanent design elements and amenities integrated into the overall development, interconnected with meaningful points of interest, prioritization of pedestrian infrastructure, highly visible and accessible, and designed to enhance both the adjacent uses and the larger mixed-use area. That's a little better picture of the concept plan. I should have had that up a moment ago. A preliminary plat is proposed for 15 building lots consisting of 1 multifamily lot, 10 townhome lots, and 4 commercial lots, 7 common lots, 1 driveway parking lot, and 3 other lots for future re-subdivision and development consisting of 1 commercial and 2 single-family residential lots on 35.29 acres of land in the R8, R15, R40, and CG zoning districts. The subdivision is proposed to develop in 5 phases with the multifamily residential development and townhomes in the first 2 phases, the commercial on the north side of Ramblin in the third phase, the commercial in the holding area on the south side of Ramblin in the fourth phase, and the single-family residential in the holding area in the last phase. In order to ensure some services are available for the proposed residents in this area, prior to full build-out of the residential area, staff is recommending a change to the phasing plan to swap phases 2 and 3. And that is the residential right here and the commercial right here. All of the existing homes and accessory structures and access driveways to Chinden, Black Cat, and Larry Lane will be removed prior to development of the phase in which they are located. Access is proposed via one new collector street, Ramblin Drive, in accord with the master street map. Ramblin will run parallel with Chinden and eventually connect to Rustic Oak to the west with development of Prescott Ridge subdivision and the school to the south. Ramblin will function as a backage road, providing connectivity and access to all properties fronting the state highway in this area. ACHD is requiring a southbound right turn lane on Black Cat at the Ramblin Black Cat Road intersection. A traffic signal is planned at the Rustic Oak Chinden intersection for safe access from the state highway. A temporary emergency access only is proposed via Chinden Boulevard until such time as Ramblin is extended to Rustic Oak in the future. Permanent access is prohibited. Staff is recommending the emergency access is relocated to the west boundary of the site in order to comply with the noise abatement standards in the UDC, which prohibit breaks in the berm and wall along the state highway. Cross-access, ingress, egress easements are required to be granted to the out parcel at the northeast corner of the site for future access and interconnectivity. A 35-foot wide street buffer is required along Chinden and Black Cat, both entryway corridors, and a 20-foot wide buffer is required along Ramblin, landscaped in accord with UDC standards. Noise abatement in the form of a 4-foot tall berm with a 6-foot tall concrete modulated wall on top of the berm is proposed at the back edge of the street buffer along Chinden, as required for residential uses adjoining a state highway. A 10-foot wide detached multi-use pathway exists within the buffer along Chinden Boulevard. A 10-foot wide detached pathway is required within the buffer along Black Cat, as proposed in accord with the pathway's master plan. And a 10-foot wide pathway is proposed along the collector street for pedestrian safety. The existing trees that will be removed from this site require mitigation in accord with UDC standards. Concept elevations were submitted for the proposed townhomes as shown. Concept plans were not included for the future commercial buildings. All structures except for single-family residential detached homes are required to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. A conditional use permit is proposed for a multifamily development consisting of 312 dwelling units on 16.7 acres of land in the R40 zoning district. A mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units are proposed in 3-story structures. 3 different types of building floor plans are proposed as follows. There are 4 of the type A building, which contains a total of 30 units each, 4 of the type B building, which contains a total of 24 units each, and 8 of the type C building, which contains a total of 12 units each. As previously mentioned, the multifamily development is proposed to be constructed in 2 phases. The UDC requires common open space to be provided in each phase of development consistent with the requirements for the size and number of dwelling units. 2 driveway accesses via Ramblin are proposed along the southern boundary of the site with an emergency access via Chinden. Internal private streets are required to be provided for addressing purposes. And let me go back to site plan real quick. The emergency access is proposed right here where my arrow is, if you can see that. And as I mentioned earlier, staff is just requesting that it be moved over here to the west boundary. Compliance with the specific use standards in the UDC for multifamily residential developments is required, which includes private open space, common open space, site amenities, parking, and landscaping, among other things. A minimum of 80 square feet of private usable open space is required for each unit. 82 square feet is proposed, exceeding this standard. Based on the area of the site and the square footage of the proposed units, a minimum of 3.46 acres of common open space is required to be provided within the development. A total of 3.58 acres is proposed, exceeding this standard. consisting of half of the street buffer along Chinden, a dog park, common area where clubhouse, swimming pool, and tot lot are proposed, and linear open space that meets and exceeds the minimum area standards. Staff is recommending revisions to the site plan prior to the council hearing for the common areas proposed along the southern boundary where the dog park, clubhouse, and swimming pool and tot lot are located along the collector street to be relocated to a more central location within the development, accessible by pathways for convenient access and for more visibility of these areas from the multifamily units, in accord with open space and SEPTED standards. A number of site amenities are required for a development based on the size and number of units in the multifamily developments. For developments more than 100 units, such as this, the decision-making body shall require additional amenities beyond the 4 required for developments with 75 units or more, commensurate with the size of the proposed development, with at least 1 from each category, i.e. the quality of life, open space, recreation, and multimodal categories. The following amenities are proposed from each of the following categories: quality of life, a clubhouse, which includes a fitness facility and a dog wash station, and a dog park with a waste station is proposed. From the open space category, 4 community garden areas, plazas, and 5 picnic areas, including tables, benches, and landscaping, and a shade structure are proposed. From the recreation category, a swimming pool, children's play structure, tot lot, walking trails, pathways are proposed. And lastly, from the multimodal category, a bicycle repair station and enclosed bicycle storage in the clubhouse. Staff is of the opinion that proposed amenities meet and exceed the standards. Off-street parking is proposed in excess of UDC standards. A minimum of 679 spaces are required, including guest parking and covered spaces. A total of 693 spaces are proposed. Bicycle parking is also proposed for each building and clubhouse in excess of the minimum standards. Conceptual elevations and perspective drawings of views from Chinden were submitted for the multifamily structures as shown. Written testimony has been received from the following folks: Matt and Ashley Newcomb and John Bartlett III and Vicky Bartlett. They are requesting denial of the project based on the development requirements in the CCNRs for Compton Subdivision Number 2, which require minimum 1 acre lot sizes within the subdivision, among other things. Brooke Nielsen requests denial of the proposed multifamily development due to the overcapacity of various schools and traffic flow in this area, not able to accommodate so much housing. Wade Ramsey, the HOA president of Bainbridge Subdivision to the east, concern pertaining to traffic cut through Bainbridge to the commercial uses to the east on 10 Mile Road, southbound traffic on Black Cat Road and congestion during peak hours, request for a traffic signal or roundabout to alleviate congestion, concern pertaining to safety of children traveling to the nearby elementary school with construction of sidewalks on this property, but no sidewalks along Black Cat for approximately 500 feet in between the subject property and the school. The Bainbridge HOA board, representing its owners, opposes this project until infrastructure improvements are made to accommodate the proposed development. And lastly, Stephanie, I'm going to pronounce this wrong probably, but Labastida, opposed to the development due to the negative impacts on the quality of life of residents in the Trilogy subdivision to the east, due to increased traffic volumes and speeds and associated safety hazards for children who live in that area. Noise, congestion, and increased activity in the area. Preference for this area to develop with solely residential uses rather than mixed use with commercial, and desire for commercial uses to be provided further to the west. Staff is recommending approval with the requirement of a development agreement per the conditions and revisions noted in the staff report. The applicant is here tonight to present. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, my name is David Bailey with Bailey Engineering. Office address is 1119 East State Street in Eagle, representing Trilogy Development for the Bladen subdivision. Thanks for the time tonight, and thanks, Sonia, for the complete thorough staff report on this. And then can I use this to advance this? keyboard? Or use the mouse? I'm not really technical challenge, but these always beat me up. There it works. Okay, so we're here for the Bladen subdivision tonight. And just give a little back history on this, as we actually started working on this project in 2020, in the beginning of 2020. And you'll notice that it has a 2023 number with the city, but in my office it has a 2020 number associated with it. And that 3 years in between, we were trying to get a layout that worked. We worked with the staff. We made several submittals to the city. We've been through, I couldn't tell you how many pre-applications and meetings and reversals on this with the city, trying to figure out how we're gonna make this happen. So we got to this point, you know, last year, and here we are a year out. We've had a few setbacks in between, and I think we have a great product here that's ready for the city to look at. Would point out that in the meantime, oh, we lose something there? Can we? On this slide here, we can see there's a general area. The green area is stuff that's annexed into the city already. And so this and the Compton subdivision to our south form, and the nursery, which is to our west, forms a enclave now within the city limits. Completely developed around this with the Trilogy subdivision, Bainbridge, the church, and the Barron multifamily project to the northeast, with single family and commercial to the northwest, or to the north of the site here. And then we have the school site to the southwest there with the project. So we are zone mixed use regional, and most of what we've been going back and forth with the city on is how do we develop this site to conform with the mixed use regional plan on this, and make sure that we have enough reserved for the regional needs of the area and comply with the other restrictions we have with the site. And the biggest problem we have, if you want to say that, is Ramblin', which is a backage road. It's a really great road that needs to be in there. It provides access between Levi Lane and Black Cat, so we don't have to have any other accesses on Chinden, which is a great thing we need there. But it does split the site in half and make it so that there is no piece of this site that is remaining that we could put a big box use on. So we have evaluated Lowe's and Home Depot, and of course there's already Winco, Costco, Walmart within the area around here, but we've looked at those too as well. Target is actually a big box, it's the same size as a Home Depot to put on this. And so the uses that are available to us are the mid box, which would be Walgreens or a Bi-Mart, or there's other stores. Grocery stores don't really fit here, and we have, in fact, we have with the developer and the realtors talked to a bunch of these folks as well. So how are we going to fulfill the need for this mixed-use regional? And we're also struggling with the idea that we don't have the northeast corner of the property to plan. So we do have a conceptual plan for that, and we have had discussions with the owner of that property as well. But it's not something that we see as near future, but we do want to make sure we're reserving the area within this thing. So the area and the developer feels it's appropriate, and we feel it's appropriate to have a significant multifamily use within this site. And the area that we're proposing that multifamily use is the most appropriate for this site. We cannot put a big box there because the commercial road Ramblin', as stated by SHD, will never be signalized. So we cannot get access to that we could leave it open, but it will never be built with that kind of use on it in the future. In addition, it's across from the school on this site. So we feel that the residential multifamily use is the best use for the site. We're reserving over half of the site for, or approximately half of the site for the commercial uses that we know need to go there. We're totally in favor of moving that mid-box adjacent to Black Cat and moving that office space to the west in that area there. And that looks like the city's cut sheets for this, where we have the CG use and the LO use, and then the single family use to the southwest. of the project. So with that, I won't go over all the numbers again. I think that, that Sonia did a great job of that. But I do want to cover a few other things. So the city agency comments and conditions. I don't know what I got for time here.
About 10 minutes.
Excuse me?
About 10 minutes.
10 more minutes. Great. Thank you. I talk too much and run out of time, and I don't want that. So of the city agency comments and conditions, so the conditions that the staff is suggesting that we do on here, the shifting the mid-box and retail, we're totally in agreement with that requirement. We'd submit a revised zoning map to support that. The footprint that we show in there now is a Walgreens, is the last one I put in there, and that certainly works in the other location as well. And then office around that. Relocate the plaza and the holding area on the south side of Ramblin' further to the south, and we're totally in favor of that. That is actually a parcel that has an existing house on it, so that's where we put it, but we fully intend to come in with a complete plan for all of the commercial at a later date, and we'll move that to be a more centrally located. I think that's, it's not actually showing on this map here. Actually show up when I touch that? What's that? I am. Okay, so we do have I guess I'll get into that right now. Is there's on the open space on this, we have met all the requirements for the open space. We've been very intentional about the open space within the multifamily and on preserving it for the future. And so we're showing here adjacent to the multifamily, there's two on the east side of that. There are two office lots and a coffee shop on the southeast side. And in between there's a plaza. And on this big site pan that may look kind of small, it's sitting on there, but I'd point out that is actually 20% bigger than Generations Plaza across from the city here in the northeast corner. And the landscape plan we have drawn here, it'll be a similar type improvement to the Generations Plaza that's right in the city center of Meridian. This is intended with the office buildings there to set the tone to tie the residential to the multifamily, excuse me, the commercial to the multifamily, as is specified by the comprehensive plan and the cut sheets for this area. So we want to set that precedent that's there. And then we do want to provide for two more open spaces, gathering spaces within the commercial area that are a gathering space, and then another one to the south of this, adjacent, probably closer to the office space that's on there, that end. But we'd have to come in with a different plan for that. So that's relocate. We're okay with that. Submit the detail for plazas, open space areas, and the commercial portions. Demonstrate they'll be integrated centers of activity, and we're in agreement to do that. It's just we're not in a place to do that now, with the exception of the plaza, which we have detailed and actually gets built in the first phase of this project. So that plaza and the two office buildings, and I think we have an error in our phasing plan because the coffee shop is intended to be in the first phase. So we would have those amenities there and the plaza area fully constructed in the first phase of the project. Next one is relocate the common areas in the multifamily portion of the development where the dog park, clubhouse, swimming pool are located to be more centrally located. And again, we were very intentional about how this is set up to have these central to that, but away from Chinden, and to provide a separation. We do have a 20-foot buffer from the commercial collector street there to be landscaped. We don't think it's a safety hazard. And then we are across from the school in this area here. So we feel that a separation from the school to the apartments and the apartments to the school, this is a great spot to do that. And as far as centrally located, we would be talking about 150 or 200 feet difference if we just move this to the north. And that does not provide a barrier to movement by our residents to go to the common area. Also provides that, since that'll be the leasing center and the center of business at the apartment complex, that we have less traffic through the subdivision for that purpose, having it here. So we would like to keep that where it is. We think that's a great spot for it. And on the west end, we tie into that linear space with the dog park, which makes both of those more useful in that area. Revised legal description and exhibit maps for the LO and CG zone. We're in agreement with that. And then revise the preliminary plat phasing plan to reflect phases 2 and 3 being swapped, and we're opposed to that condition. We will build a significant chunk, including the plaza of the commercial with the first phase. We don't feel that there is going to be a demand for any of the commercial, any more of the commercial for some time after that. And we are actively searching for tenants, possible tenants for that. And looking what we'll do, we'll probably come back with a significantly different plan at some point. May include the corner on this, but we've reserved all that so that it'll be the commercial in the future. But we would like to get the apartments built. We think this is the final use of this area, and would like to move forward with that as we go along. Walk through a few more of these. So she talked about the layout of the multifamily. And that's the phasing plan we talked about. The holding area here, and I guess this is as good a time as any to talk about the Compton subdivision. So within the Compton subdivision, there are in fact 5 lots. And this developer has these 2 lots and owns another lot within the Compton subdivision. The Bartletts own the 6 acres to the south of Larry Lane, and Mr. Newcomb to the west of this 5 acres here. We are fully aware that there's a restriction in the CC&Rs. We've talked to them about it before. We messed it up one time and adjusted some lot lines for the purpose of keeping existing homes there while we're working on the development, which we've since corrected. We believe that this plan, and we've consulted with the attorney, for the developer's attorney on this, we believe that this plan is not in violation of the CC&Rs. And we believe that the appropriate forum to determine that is in a court. And certainly they have that. But we don't think that it's appropriate to say that we can't make plans for the future of this property, and that we can't propose something that's consistent with the laws and ordinances of the city to do that. We are subdividing this into lots that are greater than 1 acre. We probably would not, we have phase 4 and phase 5 on here, so we would probably not even move forward with any of those plats until such time as this condition was resolved with the neighbors in this area. And so we think this is fully consistent with what they're doing there. And they have a different opinion on that. And as I said, we feel that the proper place to adjudicate that is in court. And that we're presenting a plan that's very consistent with what the city is asking us to do in this area. And we'll either get there eventually or we won't with that piece of it. In the meantime, we think it's reasonable to develop this in accordance with the plan we have proposed for the residential portion of this, and then for the commercial as well to the north. And we can see better things for this, but this is a good plan as is. If we could move forward with this, and we have users for this, definitely would move forward in that direction. Let's see. Again, this is switching the mid-box and the office park we're fine with. So traffic on this. So we do have traffic study. We have comments from ITD and from ACHD on this. Improvements to Black Cat Road are certainly necessary. We are required by ACHD to do a southbound right turn lane into the project at Ramblin for this. We also connect to the west on this, which gets to the point of Mr. Ramsey, I think, on there, is that a lot of this traffic that wants to go east out of these apartments onto Chinden would go out to Levi Lane and out to Chinden in the long run, and then could go south on Black Cat. That said, the improvements on Black Cat at the intersection of Black Cat and Chinden and the roundabout at McMillan and Black Cat are in the ACHD's 5-year work plans, or at least portions of all of those are in the 5-year work plan for ACHD. So we expect those improvements to be done. If they were required of this development, we would do them. We'll do the right turn lane, but we expect the other improvements to get done to provide that connectivity, the sidewalks and everything working properly on Black Cat for this project. We do have a letter from the school district. They do have slight overcapacity in one of the elementary schools that they have here, that they do have some capacity in the middle school and this site on here, middle and high schools. The site that's shown on here is owned by the school district. They don't have any specific plans on it yet, but that will be a middle school at some point in the future. So we've been in contact with them on that. We've also talked to them about road sharing the cost of building that road in front of the school. So, and providing, proper access to the property there so that they can get into that when it's time. I did want to get into some of these renderings. The townhouses are a small component of this, but we feel they should be consistent and match with what we have there. This is the apartments as seen from Chinden. And the staff did have some concern about the proximity of the project from Chinden. We do have quite a big buffer in there. We'll build another buffer with a berm. Then we have the sidewalks our parking lot in between that's hidden from Chinden. So we feel that this would be a really great view from Chinden. We have the buildings, some of them end on into that look there. So you're not looking straight out onto Chinden from the windows of those. We feel it'll be a good thing. We're fine with moving that emergency access to them.
Okay, Mr. Bailey, your timer is up. So if you could wrap up pretty quick, we'd appreciate that.
Just a couple quick more is the apartments. So these are really neat apartments, and we've shown these areas where we have these plazas that are mixed in with the buildings, garden areas within that, walking and circulation throughout the apartments. We really feel is a really nice look, and some really nice looking buildings we have here. Large pool and clubhouse, interior workout center, clubhouse amenities are significant with the project. And that's what I have.
All right.
Thank you much for your time. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, we have any questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so curious about the discussion of open space integrated within the development, within that multifamily, looking at some of the renderings, even some of the kind of just at first glance, some of those apartments feel a little bit close together. So I'm curious, what other plans, if any, have you considered over these years, to maybe do things like reduce that buffer on the south side and integrate that open space closer inside of, with what staff is recommending? Have you tried rendering any site plans with that? Have you looked into that, expanding that internal open space?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, I think just to repeat, you're talking about moving the pool and clubhouse into the middle of the apartments?
Either that or perhaps reducing their size and in using that area to expand open space inside of the development as well. Moving some of the apartments further apart with the additional square footage that you have.
Having fewer apartments.
Not necessarily fewer, but potentially you have a square footage on the south side that is current amenities and is open space, rather than having that, reducing that square footage and then using that extra square footage that you have to then create additional open space between the apartments, expanding out the footprint, creating additional space between the units, not necessarily reducing the number of units, but creating additional space between them rather than having that buffer on the south side. That makes sense,
Yes. So as I said before, we have had, I couldn't tell you how many layouts we've had. We've had different buildings on here, different units, different unit mixes. We've tried to do some single family residential on the west end of this. We tried to do some commercial mixed on either end of this. We've had fewer units. We've had some with more units. So we have had quite a few pieces on this, and these particular units, they are separated. They're not the minimum distance from each other back to back, so that we can provide those walkable lighted corridors with those open space, and then within each of those blocks that garden space that's within those. So it's not totally accurate to say that all of our open space is in the dog park and the community center to the south. So probably, I'll throw out a number, I'll probably be wrong. So I'd say over 40% of our open space is within the apartment units and not within that dog park open space in the south. But we do feel strongly that it's necessary that we separate the apartments from the school area to the south, and not have the clubhouse in the middle. And it does affect the layout of the project as far as the flow of traffic and parking within the project to do that as well. So we feel that this is the best use. We have evaluated other options as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lorcher?
I'm just curious, why do you feel like you don't want to have apartments where the pool and the dog park are? So there's a school across the street, right?
Yes,
So you don't want to have apartments abutting that street that are closer to the school? Is that correct?
correct.
And I'm just curious on the reasoning behind that.
There's a lot of traffic on that Collector Street for the school during morning and afternoon hours. That'll be moving in and there, moving slow, and just a lot of noise associated with that we'd rather have close to our clubhouse than close to the apartments.
Okay. I do have another question.
Go right ahead.
So Ramblin is the street that comes off of Black Cat, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned, or Sonia mentioned, that ACHD said there's not going to be a signal there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lorcher, yes, we specifically asked that in the meetings with the city and asked that of Mindy with ACHD, and they said that it's not eligible for a traffic signal. Traffic signal has to be at a half mile.
So if I'm traveling south on Black Cat and I want to turn west into that subdivision, I need to wait for traffic to slow down in order for me to do that, correct? I mean, there's going to be no light and it's only a 2-lane road at this point in time.
Correct. Yeah, and so we are certainly limited on the traffic there, but there will be a center turn lane at that point. Because we'll actually be 5 lanes and then 7 lanes at some point with Black Cat. In the very long term, it'll be 7 lanes wide. It'd be 3
Yeah.
plus.
So
7.
according to the notes in the staff report, Black Cat and McMillan, Black Cat and McMillan, or Chinden is 2036 to 2040, is that correct or no? And then the roundabout is 2028 for Black Cat and McMillan. I don't know when Black Cat and Chinden's supposed to be. I mean, there's already a signal there, but are they building it more out than it is right now?
They would be widening the improvements is what I understand is we have, what year do you know? Look that up. I was understanding, you're correct that there were 2028, which is in the 5-year work plan for the roundabout at McMillan and Black Cat.
Right.
And then the road is improved on the west side, or widened some, right, on the west side there by Jump Creek and the other projects to the south of this. And then we would widen our side of it there. But I believe there's, within the 5-year work plan, work on the intersection to make sure that the turn lanes are there. So it's not a new signal. So it's ACHD work, not ITD work on that intersection. Right now, there's a signal there and it kind of widens out kind of quick, but there is a left turn, straight through, right turn and a left turn, and they're just not to standards.
Okay.
And a road in there. But that we understand that that'll be widened. What I understood is that is scheduled to be widened all the way down Black Cat in support of that in that 5-year timeframe also.
Okay. And West Ada has no plans right now to build a school. They just reserve the site. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they own the site.
Right.
But they don't have specific drawn up plans. I saw a sketch that they had when they first got it,
Right.
that they have, but we've reached out to them and they won't share with us any current plans for a site plan for the site. But it will be a middle school at some point is what they
Middle
told us.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, West Ada owned a parcel behind Settlers Park, and then recently they sold it to the city of Meridian for a community center. So just because West Ada owns a piece of property doesn't mean they're always going to keep it based on the needs of the community and as it grows. So it's good to know that they have it, but whether they keep it or not, who's to say in the future. I guess my only concern at this point is the road construction, but we could talk about that during comments. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Sure.
Smith, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do have one additional question. So it looks like your 14 spaces exceeding parking UDC standards. is there a certain spot, like portion of the development that you're anticipating that excessive, like that, those extra spots to be? Or are they dispersed throughout the development, an extra spot here and there?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, to understand what you're saying, is we exceed the minimum parking. That's what you said?
Yeah, and I'm just curious if you know where those 14 extra spots beyond what you need are expected to be within the development. Are they for the multifamily? Are they for the commercial? Are they a little bit of everywhere?
So we split up the counts for the multifamily and the commercial. They're counted differently. So those extra spots that we have for the multifamily are for the multifamily, is what I understand. And we like more than the minimum, or the developer does.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sandoval, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Mr. Chair, we have one person, Wade Ramsey.
Good evening,
Thank
sir.
you. Good evening.
Need your name and address for the record, please.
Wade Ramsey. I'm the president of the Bainbridge HOA. I live at 4013 West Lost Rapids Drive in Meridian. We are the subdivision directly east of Black Cat, so across from here. Ramblin will. Our concern, well, we're one of the neighborhoods directly to the east of the proposed blatant subdivision across Black Cat Road. While we are mindful and supportive of progress and development, we do have some concerns listed below. I'll articulate those. They largely have to do with 700 cars that are forced to go south on Black Cat. It is the case, as they outlined, that ultimately, years down the road, some traffic will be able to go west to get out of the subdivision, and ultimately there will be a roundabout at Black Cat and McMillan. That's years off after this is finished. In the meantime, those 700 cars, 650 cars are theoretically only going south on Black Cat. Northbound access to Chendon Boulevard, related to that, as we understand, there's no northbound access onto Black Cat from Blayton. While there was some discussion about a turn lane, that's not our understanding from ACHD. That there'll be a median that comes through is what we've been led to believe. And that's a concern for us because it will push all the traffic south on Black Cat. That is, as you asked, that's a 2-lane road currently. That will force a lot of traffic onto eastbound Vanderbilt. We're very concerned about that. That'll become the main route of Blayton residents wishing to travel to Costco, Walmart, eastbound on Chendon, and the multitude of shops, restaurants, fuel stations, et cetera, along that 10-mile corridor. Vanderbilt is a residential street with a lot of pedestrian bicycle traffic, specifically children going to Pleasant View Elementary. We have lots of concerns that there's no signal on Black Cat that is planned. And in theory, those kids aren't walking to, they're not busing someplace else. They may be walking to Pleasant View Elementary across that Black Cat Road. And we have a lot of concerns about that. Vanderbilt is not a direct road route to Chendon or 10 Mile. There's several twists and turns to get north onto Tree Farm Way, West Lost Rapids Drive, and several common areas, pools, and parks are along the way. We have concerns about that and where that traffic cuts through. Southbound on traffic on Black Cat, as I articulated, currently during peak hours, there's substantial backups at the 4-way stop at Black Cat and McMillan. It's 4 stop signs is what it is right now. There ultimately is a plan for a roundabout there, but that may or may not be in the 5-year plan. Stoplights at least completed a completed roundabout would help alleviate this issue somewhat. Sidewalks as interpreted in the plans, the blatant sidewalk will only extend north to Chendon and south to Larry Lane. Southbound, this leaves only roadside pedestrian travel, meaning school children specifically, for approximately 500 feet. With the current 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, that is a substantial hazard, obviously. Those are our concerns. As the 5 members of the Bainbridge HOA Board, representing 572 homes and over 1,000 voters, we are opposed to the blatant subdivision being approved until the infrastructure shortcomings noted above are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And being the president of the HOA, if you have anything else to add, you have more time.
Okay, no, that's my
All right. Thank
our
you very much.
concerns around the traffic piece and the,
Commissioners, any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Mr. Chair. We have a Matt Newcomb online that's raising his hand if you'd like for me to allow him to speak.
Absolutely. Mr. Newcomb, looks like you are muted right now, so we'll need you to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
If you could speak up a little bit, having a little trouble hearing you.
Is this any better?
Not really. Can we turn that up a little bit on our side?
Let's try again.
Okay. Go ahead and
Yes.
we'll listen the best we can.
Okay, I'm doing my best. I'm happy to call in if there's a number that I could call in at.
Actually, we can hear you pretty good right now.
Okay, thank you. My name is Matt Newcomb. I live at 5120 West Larry Lane. It's the parcel immediately west of phases 4 and 5, as shown in yellow on the plan that I think is on your screen right now. I can't be there tonight because I'm in Oregon having a family vacation, but I did want to speak with the commission about the importance of this project to us. The gentleman from Bailey Engineering mentioned that he has been on this project since 2020. We have also, and we've provided the commission a letter from us as well as some previous documentation regarding development in our subdivision. In 2019 and 2020, a subdivision was planned called Tara's Landing. And we asked the Planning and Zoning Commission to have the developer agree with us on the terms to assure that they met the CCNRs. At that time, the Planning and Zoning Commission directed the developer back to us to agree on terms. And we are asking the commission the same thing with this development. The gentleman from Bailey Engineering essentially said that he wanted the courts to decide if the development met the CCNRs. It sounds like they are forcing a lawsuit, and as private property owners and as individuals, it really feels like the developer is strong arming us into a legal battle. And we know the developer is Open Arms, or excuse me, I think it's Open Door Rentals, and Corey Barton is the owner of that. So as property owners, we don't know who else to ask for help other than the commission. We really don't want to be in a legal battle with Corey Barton. We've met with him a couple of times to discuss the terms of the CCNRs. And when we met with him, he was in favor of it. We've included that documentation in the commission's, the letter that we sent to the commission. You can see it there. We met with them in 2022, and they agreed with us at the time to conform with the CCNRs. So we're really asking for your help to uphold legal rights that are ours, that we need help upholding. We think the city of Meridian respects legal rights, and we're not opposed to development, but we're opposed to development this way. I haven't heard any questions on the CCNRs or on the letter that we provided. In the letter we provided, there was a copy of 2 letters from attorneys that address the CCNRs and their validity. So again, we're asking for your help with this, and we're asking you to deny it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The Bartletts are in attendance tonight.
Okay. Appreciate your testimony tonight. Commissioners, any questions? Okay. No questions from us. Thank you, Mr. Newcomb. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Mr. Chair, no one else has signed up.
do you have anybody in chambers that would like to testify? I thought I saw somebody earlier. Come on up. If you address the commission, please. Thank you. Need your name and address for the record, please.
I am Mark Vukolich. I live at 4585 West Everett Street. The reason me and a lot of these people out here moved into that spot was because it was out on the fringe. And I do heating and cooling. I've done a lot of multifamilies. And as soon as the multifamilies move in, then traffic starts. And it's very terrible. I also will not say as much as the gentleman well before me. My joke. Sorry. Bad joke. Bad joke, right? I think everybody here is opposed to this 100%. And that's why we're here. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Unless, and then they say they're going to make Black Cat 5 lanes. We didn't move out there to have Black Cat a main thoroughfare. Actually, I actually don't even know what to say. This is a travesty in Meridian. We moved to Meridian to get away from this type of stuff. And this type of stuff keeps following us back. So I hope you'll listen to my plea and not let this happen. Everybody in this room who's here does not want this to happen, except for that guy who says
Thank you. Any questions? No? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Anybody else in chambers? Madam, come on up.
Thank you.
Need your name and address, please. Yes, thank you.
Kristen Chittister. I'm on 4685 West Ramblin' Court. My biggest concern is I've been serving on the PTA board of my kids' elementary school, and we are oversized, I don't know how you say it. And we're 3 years into the school. So from my understanding, if the school districts owns this land, their goal is to build a middle school. What about an elementary? That's where we're overcrowded right now. And also, I'm confused about the traffic from Ramblin' Court. I understand it won't have a signal, but even at this point, we can't get out during the busy times of the day. So something to please consider.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else in chambers? No? If there's anybody online that wants to testify, please hit the raise hand button. Not seeing anybody else. Oh, see a Don Brown.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Don Brown, 4595 West Ramblin' Court. And backing up what Kirsten just mentioned, I don't think any of the studies that were done and anything that the engineer addressed dealt with the folks that are not only coming off of the Ramblin', our existing road, but also that are coming from the Trilogy subdivision and cutting into Ramblin' Court, and then attempting to make turns onto Black Cat is nearly impossible. And so you're forcing us to go to the right towards Chinden if we can even get out. The thing that's going to happen is you're going to have people coming from the coming from the apartment complex and making U-turns in the middle of Black Cat, or going up to one of the other crossroads up there and flipping around to go back to Chinden, because they're obviously not going to want to drive clear up to McMillan to get to the Walmarts, to get to Costco. But I didn't hear anything from the engineer addressing the effects that amount of cars and vehicles is going to have on the existing traffic flow. So I'd like to see some traffic counts done, and actually some photos, pictures of the traffic as it exists now, because there's been times when we haven't even been able to get out of our subdivision. And then that also is going to definitely affect the risks that the kids will take unknowingly with traffic, and you've got drivers that are impatient, and that's a bad formula. So I don't think there is enough to address that portion of it. And I would urge the council to take that into account.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else online that would like to testify? Please hit the raise hand button. Not seeing anybody. Last call, anybody in chambers? Sir, come on up. Good evening. Need your name and address, please, sir.
Barry Taylor, 4613 West Everest Street. Right now in the mornings, there's so much school traffic. If you try to get off on Ramblin to make a right-hand turn so you can go west on Chinden, you can't even get across. I come home when there's traffic. I come down, I'm going east on Chinden. So I go south on Black Cat, and I have to go east on Ramblin Court. I have to sit and block traffic right there because there is a center divider for traffic to let me get across. I can't even get into my subdivision, which is Trilogy. There is so much traffic now that on any given day, I can see cars 40, 45 miles an hour since we don't have any stop signs in front of our house and we're in the middle of the block. I am not kidding. They're doing 45, 50, and there's kids. And they're cutting through our subdivision. And that's just going to make it worse. It is horrible right now. I've invited the police department to come and sit and give tickets. And they say they don't have time. That needs to stop. We have too much traffic going too fast down our street in Ramblin Court, going in and out of Ramblin Court. You can hear them screeching their tires, all that, trying to get ahead. I think the traffic is going to be too much. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Anybody else in chambers want to come forward? Going once, going twice? All right. Commissioners, anything else you want to add before we move on and close the public testimony portion?
Mr. Chair, does the applicant usually?
Oh, that's right. I was going to say we should probably ask the applicant to come back up, shouldn't we? Yeah, come on up, sir. Thank you. I was getting in a hurry tonight. Sorry about that.
I get it. I would want to be too. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, David Bailey again. Okay, so I'll be brief though, with that in mind, is that we looked that up and the roundabout is 2028, so it should be designed already down there. And the Black Cat widening is 2036 to 2040, as you stated, is what is in the ACHD staff report. So back to that real quickly is that we did in fact have a traffic study done by Chang Ream, CR Traffic Engineering, submitted to ACHD, submitted to Idaho Transportation Department, reviewed by both of them. We have comment letters from both of them on the improvements that are required on this and the discussion behind that. And we're willing to do all the improvements they're asking for. If they need more, you know, we're willing to do what's needed in accordance with what the highway district is telling us we need to do. Right now, that's the southbound right turn lane. ITD had a preference for a right turn lane from Black Cat onto Chinden, and ACHD said, we don't want you to build that now because we'll improve this later. And it doesn't meet our standards there. That said, Black Cat is in fact a mile section line road that is an arterial street and has been planned for some time to be an arterial street and to handle that, you know, 12,000 trips per day in the long future of what's going to go on, you know, with that. There's no doubt that that's what it's planned for. This will add traffic to that, and I disagree personally with the policy of not having the 660 feet. In fact, I got in trouble for getting an argument with Mindy over a traffic signal at Ramblin' on this very project, but it is their policy. And so they're not going to do that there. Levi Lane will be a reality, and it'll probably be a reality connected through, prior to us finishing the apartment complex on this is what I'm guessing it's going to be. Because there's just a couple properties to the west there in Prescott and Levi Lane being constructed. We're not that far from the interchange there. And we believe that's definitely going to be, for our residents, we're concerned that they can't get out and turn left and get on the Black Cat. So certainly is our concern as well. That said, we have to deal with the cards we're dealt for this project. And this is an appropriate use and density considering the comprehensive plan and all the streets that are planned for this area in the long, from that end. As to the Compton subdivision, I'll just be really clear is that we have looked at this very hard and we believe we are not in violation of the Compton subdivision CCNRs, either with the planning of this or with the showing of the 1 acre lots on this. We believe that's in strict compliance with them. We're not inviting a lawsuit from anybody. We are following the rules that are put out within the CCNR to the best of our ability on that end of it. And we have worked with the neighbors and we'll continue to work with them as we go through this project. So we don't want to fight either. And we don't believe that we're violating those rules that are in the CCNR.
Okay.
I'd be glad to stand for any other questions you might have.
Mr. Chair, go ahead.
Regarding that Compton area, are there any subdivided lots that will be less than 1 acre?
No.
Okay.
So we are showing 3 lots actually total within the 10 acres that's in the Compton subdivision. And one of them will be the portion of the LO and the CG lot. And then the 2 lots that are along Larry Lane, we show a future subdivision plan with lines in there because your city staff requires that we submit that, a redevelopment plan for that area. So that's all we're showing is a redevelopment plan for that area. Each of those lots is in fact greater than 1 acre. And in fact, the houses that are there are going to stay there. They're meant to stay within those 1 acre lots. So there's 2 houses there that'll stay in those 1 acre lots until we get around to developing that. Or, the CCNRs may go on forever, and they sure hope they do, and we sure hope they don't. So, but we're being respectful of what's written in the CCNRs.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
As a follow-up, I'm reading the letter that's in the public comment from that's attached from Perkins Coie that references the CCNRs, and just for context, as the section that they cite says the Compton subdivision number 2 is to be divided into residential areas of 5 acres or larger, and any lots larger than 1 acre may be re-subdivided by the owners thereof into parcels not less than 1 acre in size by compliance with local and state regulations and laws. So what they're citing is that can be re-subdivided into parcels not less than 1 acre, which is what you're showing. Is the issue then whether that residential initial subdivision carries over to that re-subdivision? Or I guess help me understand what the actual disagreement here then, because even if the CCNRs continue, this seems like it's not necessarily the 1 acre issue. Is it the residential issue then? Let me understand what the legal disagreement is.
That might be a good question to ask of them, because I don't feel there's any conflict between what we're doing and that end of it. And I think the comparison to the Terra's Landing subdivision is different, because they were actually proposing to subdivide those less than 1 acre and to go plat that as that. We're not proposing to do that. So there's probably a legal question. I'm not an attorney, but I love to talk like I am, but I'm certainly not. But there could be a question as to whether that a residential applies to the 5 acres or to the 1 acres after you subdivide, the way that's written. Maybe a court could, or someone wants to rule on what that means, or maybe that's what they're proposing, is they can't be other than residential. But it doesn't say anything about zoning. It says about the use, right? So we aren't planning any use that's not residential on this property either. with the subdivision, okay? So we are not asking for that use to be available. And then, that, I don't know, I would assume that may be their question, but we feel that we are in strict compliance with the way we read the CCNRs. And we'd be glad to, again, I'm not the attorney.
Kirk, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman and Commissioners, I want to add a couple comments from the city's perspective, but I don't want to encroach upon your response time. So, Madam Clerk, can we pause the clock for a moment? I don't want to encroach upon the applicant's rebuttal time. I'm going to tackle this from a little bit different perspective, but happy to answer any specific questions you have. But I guess I'm looking at this from the city's perspective, as I advise you as the Planning and Zoning Commission, is that the way the city looks at restrictive covenants of this nature, these are private contractual agreements between private parties. And so the city is not involved, we're not a party to those agreements, we don't enforce CCNRs. But really, it's a private matter between the private property owners. So from the city's perspective, to the extent there's a dispute, that really doesn't impact what we're doing in terms of eligibility for annexation or other entitlements. If there is a dispute, it's not the city's role to adjudicate or to interpret what the restrictive covenant might mean. That really is the judicial process. And so my advice and recommendation to the commission is, I think, get all the information you want to take in and consider. But at the end of the day, when you look at it from the city's perspective, restrictive covenants of the nature we're talking about are really private contractual matters between private parties, and we really ought not get too far into the weeds. And I certainly would not want to, in terms of some of the specific questions that were being asked earlier about what the dispute might mean or how the language should be interpreted, sort of the city would never provide legal advice to either party.
Sure.
Let's go right ahead.
So
Thank you,
that
Kirk.
actually does lead into kind of another question I had for you, Kurt, regarding, obviously, the city's not adjudicating or enforcing. Is it reasonable for the commission to take into account I guess let me start with kind of where my head's at, and then I'll back that into the question. When I see, there's something that is potentially a lawsuit required or legal action required to resolve an issue that could impact the future plan of the site, that kind of gives me some pause regarding, like, does this actually look anything like what the site might end up looking like, how that fits into development? No, obviously, you don't want to set a precedent where you're encouraging people to threaten lawsuits to, prevent something from getting passed. But I guess, is there room for the commission to take into account that legal dispute and the impact it might have on the overall development, and whether it's passed, continued, denied, et cetera?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Commissioner Smith. So I guess two thoughts there. First is that I really don't think we want to get too far into an actual legal dispute or even the potential for such a dispute. So I would advise some caution there. But I do think in terms of your general comments and your general concerns, I would say that from just taking a step back and looking at it from a public policy perspective, this is an annexation, and one of the findings that ultimately the city council has to make is that this is in the best interest of the city. If you think this project is not likely to proceed timely, and it's therefore not going to be in the city's best interest, and you can articulate your reasoning for that, I think that could be brought into the discussion and could be part of your deliberation. If you think the annexation is not timely because there are impediments to development and it's going to lie fallow for some period of time and therefore it's not timely, that would probably be a legitimate discussion for deliberation.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, go right ahead then.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And we're not necessarily looking to, push anybody in there. But one of the things that I do want to point out is that our impression on you as are we good neighbors and good developers, and is something that we always strive to do. And so I think it's a great issue to bring up, and I don't have a problem with the neighbors bringing this up or us discussing this at all in that manner, because we are trying to be good neighbors. And good neighbors look at the rules, and we follow the rules, as well as cooperate and communicate with the neighbors, and we'll continue to do that. And I do think that we can, as presented tonight, build this project as presented, right? There's some questions about what'll actually end up being there, you know, and when, but the project as presented tonight is what we intend to build.
Commissioner Orchard, anything?
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
So this, I guess, this isn't quite necessarily public comment related. I was saving some of this for the actual deliberation portion, but there's a question I want to ask you related to this. Is I still don't fully have confidence in kind of the multifamily open space. Just the amount, looking at it, it looks like we're just barely clearing the minimum private usable open space by 2 square feet. And it just feels, with the density and the open space, it feels a little cramped to me. And I'm thinking about not necessarily the things that were testified about tonight, but I'm thinking about the quality of life for the residents at this parcel. And I'm just curious if this were, you know, continued, or if there's a future timeline. I know you guys have been working on this for years. Is there any feasibility, you think, and again, talking not about preference, but feasibility in potentially increasing some of that open space between those parcels, between those units, those blocks of apartments, for you know, to comply with some of those, the crime prevention standards, the open space standards that staff pointed out?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Smith, we have worked this over quite a bit, and we think this is the one that provides all the required open space and just a little extra. The square footage you're just describing for the private open spaces specifically on the balconies. Our balconies were a little small, and we moved those up to 82 feet. I think there were a couple that were less than that for some reason. But the open space provided for the apartments both meets the code and is really consistent with several of the other apartments that have been approved, or that we've gotten approved actually in the city of Meridian in recent past. So we're from my perspective, our perspective, we're not cramped, and again, we have been very, very intentional about the placement of those based on what the developer wants and needs for the quality of life of the residents, because he's going to be renting it to people who need that quality of life. So that's very intentional on that end of it. But probably would not want to go back to pushing that into the middle of the development. And we think that the open space between the buildings is really a very good, very good amenity for the project. So if I could just summarize real quick. So we are agreeing with all the conditions and asking you for a recommendation to the city council for approval of the annexation and for the preliminary plat for this. And the two that we are asking to not go forward with are the relocating the common areas within the area and revising the phasing. So we do want to build the whole that, although we will agree to revise the phasing to add the coffee shop into the first phase within this project. So we intended to do that.
I hear the wheels spinning.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sandoval, do you have any further questions?
Mr. Chair,
Right ahead.
I have a question for the applicant. So you stated the street buffer is part of the open space. If that's correct, what percentage of that open space is taken up by that street buffer?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I'm not sure I have that number off the top of my head. It's half of the street buffer along Chinden, which contains a berm and a fence in there. I don't know the number.
Thank you.
Anything further, Commissioner?
That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, did have one
Commissioner Smith,
last
go ahead.
question. So it seems like you implied this, and I want to confirm, is the developer planning on owning and operating this post instead of selling this property?
I don't know all the details of that, but that's my impression, yes.
General, okay.
Yes, that's what he's doing at this point with the apartment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lorcher, anything further? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And with that, there's nothing further. I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0043, Bladen subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0043. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. Who would like to comment first?
He seems to be deep in thought, so I will go.
Okay,
Chinden is a major corridor in our community, and as Meridian continues to grow west to offer different types of housing opportunities for people is going to be important for the overall portion of our city. But Black Cat is not ready for it. For those who moved out there for the fringe, I live in a community not too far from here, thinking that we were in the sticks as well, and we're surrounded by other subdivisions because that's how our community is growing. And since I don't own that land past my own property, I have no say in what happens after, unless I come to a meeting like this and just kind of acknowledge it. But with that said, the fact that Black Cat between Chinden and McMillan is not going to be built out to 2036 to 2040, and the roundabout is not even scheduled to 2028, with a 2-lane road with Pleasant View being on one side and everybody having to turn left or right and onto Rambling with no light, to me seems too much for the size of this property with no other access. You can't get in on Chinden. You have to go on Rambling. I don't know where the Levi Lane is or where that goes. I think this could be the right development for this area, but not now. I don't think the city is ready based on the infrastructure that we currently have in place. Whether West Data builds a school there or not, they bought the land. They probably bought it 20 years ago with anticipations. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So holding them to building a school, a middle school, an elementary school, that's up for grabs based on the needs of our community. And they'll evaluate that on their times, and the city is not in charge of the schools. So I think overall the diversity of the apartments and the townhouses, and the fact that you are willing to swap the office for the retail is appreciated. I don't even see retail being on Black Hat so close to Chinden. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. So at this point in time, today, I am not in support of this project.
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Saddle, I'll go right ahead.
So mixed use areas should be centered as outlined in the staff report. The buffers as an open space, in my opinion, are dangerous or unusable. It's lacking the infrastructure right now, as Commissioner Lorcher stated, roadways and schools. I understand that the city doesn't have any control over these. I'm open to discussion, but I'm of the opinion that as the application lays now, we should recommend denying annexation until the site plan is modified to align with the staff recommendations, and or the scope and scale are modified to meet the current infrastructure. Because I'm in agreement, 2036, 2040 is a little too far out.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's funny, I think I actually am having issues for almost the exact opposite reasons as Commissioner Lorcher. I think, regarding the phasing and the timing of that, regarding the relative to the roundabout, being 1 year off, I think is not the end of the world. I would obviously, that 2036, 2040 for Chinden is a bit far off, but I think there's a bit of a reality that we have to grapple with as we continue to grow, that there is a need for greater housing, and with the traffic that comes with that is kind of something that we are hoping to mitigate, and we can hope to time right and time well. But there are a lot of different moving parts, and that's always going to be an issue. I think with the school capacity, just with how development fees work in Idaho, I think I would, I personally love if that wasn't the case, but this is what funds those schools. So that school capacity issue, it's kind of a self-creation issue. You need to create more capacity issues to solve them. My main issues are with, and I know the developer has been at this for a long time and working hard to make this site. I don't think the site plan is right for the area. I don't think the site plan aligns with the intentions of the city. I think staff pointed out a lot of the issues, especially the one thing that we kind of didn't emphasize as much, but one of the standards discusses the CPTED standards, which is crime prevention through environmental design, I think. As we develop new housing, I want to ensure that housing is safe housing. I want to ensure it's livable housing. And I don't think that this fully meets up to those standards. So I genuinely do think in terms of a lot of variables, we're close. And that's one thing I want to say, and I do want to say to a lot of the people here tonight, is that at some point or another, this kind of some development along these lines, there is going to be something here. And I obviously don't think that this is the exact right development at this time. But I encourage you, I appreciate you showing up tonight, and I encourage you to remain involved, hopefully working with the developer to make that the right fit for the area going forward. So that's kind of where I'm at. Thanks.
Thank you. I won't pile on too much, but being someone that uses Black Cat frequently, I share the concerns of the folks that testified this evening. So I actually like how it's come together. Wish things were a little bit more complete as far as what was submitted tonight. There was a lot of changes that need to be discussed and talked about. I honestly, I kind of like the multifamily, to be honest. I like, the conceptual plan of it, the open space that's provided in there. I think that's a nice element to it. And I try to be as optimistic as I can, and think about people enjoying that shaded space that's in between the apartments and things like that. So I try not to think about the nefarious back alleys element to it or anything like that. So I mean, for the people that live there, it's actually would be very nice. So it would be nice to see the common areas more centrally integrated. There is reasoning before, on both sides of that. I understand why you would want to have that kind of buffer for the noise and things like that that are on the street. But I also understand why you would want to centrally locate that. The biggest concern that I have is basically, I mean, you're going to take all the traffic that's here and you're going to force it right out onto Black Cat. From there, people, while they're waiting for the roundabout to hopefully maybe ease congestion, they're going to get impatient and they're going to cut through Bainbridge. That is what they're going to do. So I see some traffic like that happening now. And we're not, we're not fully built out with what's currently developing, much less, a development this size. So I really wish ACHD would speed the timeline for Black Cat. It's really a sore point for Meridian, from basically one end to the other. So every time developments come up on Black Cat, it's a point of contention. It really is. But, you know, they own the roads, we don't. So kind of like the schools, we don't own the schools. So if, you know, if ACHD says it's okay, then it's okay. If the schools say it's okay, then it's okay. It's theirs to run, it's theirs to operate. That said, we don't have to necessarily agree with it either. But I think that I share the same sentiments with my other commissioners where I think this is a good development. I think it's a good fit for the land that it would be on. I just don't think that we have the infrastructure at this point in order to support it properly for the city of Meridian. So luckily, I can't make a motion. So I will gladly take one though. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Archer.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend denial to the city council for file number H 2023-0043 for the following reasons. The density of the project puts too much burden on the current infrastructure, and the site plan does not support open space and common areas integrated inside the multifamily housing.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recommend denial to city council of file number H 2023-0043 with the specific reasons. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Recommendation for denial moving forward, right? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's enough, everybody. It's not a pep rally. Trying to keep you on your toes. Trying to keep you on your toes. All right. One down. So we now have, I would like to open the public hearing for item number H 2024-0010 for continuance. I would like to have the opportunity to speak to the applicant before we do the continuance. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Just your name and address real quick so we know who we're talking to.
Yeah, Stephanie Hopkins. I'm with KM Engineering. Our address is 5725 North Discovery Way in Boise.
Just like to cover why the continuance at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission. Appreciate your consideration on the request for continuance. We're requesting continuance because we've been working with ACHD on an access point that they're not sure if they're supporting or not yet, essentially. So we submitted a traffic memo from our traffic engineer for them to review, and they just haven't had a chance to, or they have not completed their staff report yet. So I've been in communication with staff today, and they've come to a decision among themselves, but we need to get this staff report finalized in order to continue forward. So we'd like to be able to present, you know, their final recommendation as well as our request to the commission, rather than come with kind of a half application.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but this is for the additional access to 10 Mile, correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, we're proposing 3 points of access, or 3 points of access overall, 2 to 10 Mile. And there was 1 point of access that we were working through ACHD, we're coordinating with ACHD on.
Okay, and this is the same road that is rated as an F from data from 3 years ago that we're talking about, correct?
Mr. Chair, that's correct, yep.
Okay, that will be a concern.
Mr. Chair, we anticipate that. And we'll, another reason that we're requesting continuance is that our traffic engineer was not available. We'd like to have a full team here to be able to answer your questions.
Commissioners, any questions on that? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to note too, if you are going, or if you're going to consider the continuance, that the best date for our client, they're going to be gone all of September. So it'd be the first meeting in October, which I know pushes it out a fair distance, so.
I think that's okay, and will likely ask you to renotice. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of public testimony on this, so
I noticed that, yes.
we definitely want to make sure that everybody's going to be well informed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you need a motion?
Actually, we need a date.
October 3rd is the first Thursday of,
October 3rd is the first one. Darn, I won't be here for that one. I'm sorry. That date works perfectly for me. So I will need a motion to continue file number H 2024-0010 to the date of October 3rd, 2024.
So moved.
second.
Been moved and seconded to continue file number H 2024-0010 for the Gateway at 10 Mile to the date of October 3rd, 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. File is continued.
Mr. Chair, this is Bill.
Bill, go ahead.
Did your motion include a renoticing of that project as well?
I am sorry, it did not.
We talked about it.
We did talk
Went
about
over-
it.
We went over it with the client to be
We
able to
want,
do that.
do we want to,
that motion?
we want to rescind the motion?
Do you want us to reflect that?
Mr. Chairman, you do it one of two ways. You can do a replacement motion. You can have a second motion now to that effect. My understanding is the applicant is willing to do so. So I just suggest a second motion just to confirm that the expectation or requirement is to renotice the project at the applicant's expense.
Okay, so I'll take a motion on file number H 2024-0010 to affirm reposting of the application.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to, what did I say?
Repost.
To repost for application H 2024-0010 before the hearing date of October, or for the hearing date of October 3rd, 2024. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Let me see. Okay, and with that, I'd like to open file number H 2024-0013 for the brewery, and we will start with the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commission members. So tonight we are here for excuse me, put up my. Operator error. Yeah, okay. Technical difficulties. Okay, so tonight we are here for a request for a conditional use permit to allow a drinking establishment at 1184 South Silverstone Way, which consists of 1.0 acres and it's zone CG. And this will be within an existing 11,000 square foot shell building in the Eagle View Retail East Building with a 5,287 square feet of fenced in outdoor patio area. So access to this development is via Silverstone Way, which was approved with the Rackham subdivision. Parking requires one space for every 250 square feet of gross floor area. This amounts to about 7 parking spaces for the tenant space and 21 spaces for the outdoor seating area for a total of 28 parking spaces. 148 parking spaces for the entire building has already been approved. The UDC requires 2 bicycle parking spaces for this development also. So all of this was installed with the original approval of the Eagle View East Retail Building. There's existing landscaping for the property already along Silverstone Way and East Flaherty Lane, which was installed with the development when it was approved. And landscaping for the parking lot was installed also per the UDC, as well as the outdoor plaza area. The building elevations for this development were also approved as part of the approved CZC and design review, which is A-2019-0389 in 2019. So there's no exterior work other than installing the fence around the outdoor seating area proposed for this development. The fence is being reviewed under a separate CZC application, which staff has already reviewed and which will be approved if this application is approved. We had no written testimony for this development, proposed development, and at this time, the applicant is here to answer any questions you have and maybe provide a small presentation.
All right. Thank you very much. The applicant like to come forward? Good evening.
Elizabeth Allen, planner at Ball Ventures Allquist, 1144 South Silverstone Way, Meridian 836.
Pull the mic right down into, there you go.
There's two mics. I don't know which one to use.
That's okay. We can hear you in stereo now.
Will I be using your presentation or the one I choose? So staff did an excellent job presenting the proposal, so I'm going to keep my presentation short to avoid duplicating information. So I'm going to focus on our development and then the tenant. So we're requesting approval of a conditional use permit special use permit for the brewery, and it's a drinking establishment. Do I change the slide? Thank you.
There it goes.
Sorry about that. So our Eagle View Landing development is on the corner of Eagle Road and Interstate 84. And so at that location, we have a bunch of office tenants, and then we have Topgolf, power engineers, we have multifamily, Hyatt Place Hotel, and then in the retail building, we have Houston Hot Chicken, and then Rock Box Fitness. And then we also have Sushi Brothers, which will be coming in. And then the tenant space for the brewery is also located in that building. And then so the brewery, so they are a brewery based out of, called The Brewery. They're based in California, and they started in 2008. So they have one tasting room in California. So this will be their second tasting room in the United States, which is really exciting. So we're excited to have them here in the Eagle View Landing development. Their purpose and goal with their brewery is to provide beer that is like nothing you've ever tasted before. So they have very unique beers that I think we don't have here in Meridian. So it'll be a good, good location for business owners, residents, and the overall community to come visit. And then I'll stand for questions.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? Commissioner Sandoval, do you have anything?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Are there two bicycle racks already in place just for two bikes?
Chairman, Commissioner, so there is two bicycle racks located on that north side of the building. You can see that in the image, and we're going to be relocating those out of the patio space. So we'll still have the parking, bicycle parking stalls.
Okay, thank you.
I was wondering if you're going to go over on the bicycle parking as much as you did the regular parking. Just
Get
kidding.
me started on parking.
Anything else? No. Okay, thank you very much. We might make this really short. Is it, Madam Clerk, has anybody signed up to testify at all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No one has signed up.
All right. Anybody in chambers want to testify? Going once, going twice? Anybody online? Please press the raise hand button. Okay. With that, applicant has nothing further to add? Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
move to close the public hearing.
And, do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2024-0013. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. This one is pretty straightforward, so had a little bit of concern on just the placement of it, but I mean, it's already there. There's no public testimony from the landowner there or anything along those lines, so a lot of variety in this area for sure. So happy to see a little bit more variety coming in. If there's anything else, or a motion is always welcome.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the city council of file number H-2024. Sorry, I would recommend
Yep,
Where's
it's
Here we
CUP,
go.
so it'll be a.
I move to approve. Thank you. Start that over. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2024-0013 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of July 18th, 2024, with no modifications.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2024-0013 with no modifications. All in favor, please say aye.
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 No opposed. Motion passes. Congratulations. All right. And with that, does anybody need a bio break, or do you want to go ahead and keep going on this? All good? Okay. I'd like to open file number H 2024-0007 for Ferenz Plaza. We will begin with staff report. You're back, Linda.
Good evening again. So for this application is for a development agreement modification or a new DA and a conditional use permit. So this is for the property located at 3182 East Mount Etna Drive, and it's located in the CC zone, and it's 1.933 acres. So the applicant is requesting a modification to the existing development agreement to update the owner's information and revise the concept plans, elevations, site and landscape plans to reduce the commercial square footage from 20,000 square feet to 11,000 square feet, a reduction of 9,000 square feet. The applicant submitted two concept plans with the DA modification. The current CUP is only approving the drive-through on the southern portion of the property. This for the proposed bank. Staff is not in support of the other drive-through, which would be this one. On the northern property, and therefore does not support concept plan A. So the applicant did provide a legal description for the boundary of the new DA, and staff did recommend some revisions for this. One of the revisions of the concept plan is to show the entrance to the property at the location that is currently there. because the utilities are already installed. The current entrance to the property is along here, along Mount Etna. The applicant did receive approval from the Highway District to relocate that further west, but staff is not in support of that because the utilities have already been installed. And then we asked them to, again, we don't want that drive-through on the northern property right next to the proposed residential units that will be there. It was something that we talked about at our pre-application meetings, but the applicant is allowed to submit what they feel they would like to see for their proposal. So the hours of operations for this bank ATM will be, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because it is just an ATM where people drive up to it to get money from the bank. Again, utility services were installed with this development with the Ferenc Plaza subdivision. As with anything, any stuff not used shall be abandoned per the city requirements. Access, again, is from Mount Edna via South Eagle Road. There's no direct access to the property from Eagle Road. And again, the applicant is requesting to relocate the entrance to the property further west. Again, staff is not in support of that proposal. Parking for this for this proposed bank is one space for every 500 square feet of gross floor area based on the 3,182 square feet for the bank. A minimum of 6 parking spaces required. A total of 32 parking spaces are being proposed, which exceeds the UDC standards, and a minimum of 1 bicycle parking space is required for every 25 vehicles. So therefore, we are requiring 2 bicycle spaces for this, and they have depicted a bicycle rack on the landscape plan. There is existing landscaping along North Eagle Road, which is an arterial. The applicant is proposing a 16-foot landscape buffer along Mount Etna. And with a 5-foot detached sidewalk. And the applicant also proposing a 25-foot landscape buffer along the west property line as a buffer to the residential uses with a 7-foot sidewalk. The applicant is also proposing a fence along the boundary to the west and north of the properties. This is the perimeter fence that they are proposing for the property. And again, building elevations were submitted for this, the proposed Chase Bank. The building materials consist of smooth face CMU panels, glass, and fiber cement. Staff has, we did review the design, which complies with, they appear to comply with the design standards, but they will be required to submit a certificate of zoning compliance as well as a design review to be reviewed and approved administratively by the city. We did receive written testimony on this. We received 2 comments that were not in support of the bank at this location. And so with this, we ask that our recommendation is approval of the modification and the conditional use permit per the conditions and findings of our staff report, which is for the DA to not recommend concept A and to leave the entrance to the property in its existing location. The applicant is here and they do have a presentation. So.
All right. Thank you very much. The applicant like to come forward? Either one will work. I've been told. I don't speak from there very often, so. Need your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, Tamara Thompson. I'm with the Land Group. Our address is at 462 East Shore Drive in Eagle. And we do have a PowerPoint if we can pull that up. With me here is Aaron Zuzak. He's with Broman Development. They are the property owner and the developer of this. So we're gonna tag team this if you will allow us. And I have some history on the project. I've been working on this site since 2016. So I thought I'd just kind of give you a brief history, and then I'll turn it over to Aaron to give the rest to you. So our applications before you tonight is a development agreement modification and a conditional use permit. And we'll go into those in more detail. And thank you to staff and Linda for her report. I just wanted to give you a bit of history. So this was the original application, or the property. It was the 40 acres on that corner of Eagle and Ustick. We annexed and zoned that with a preliminary plat in 2017. I'm sorry, our applications were 2016. They were approved in February of 2017. But this is how that ended up. So of the 40 acres, 24 of that, which is roughly 60%, was zoned R8. And then the CC zone for the 16 acres, which is in the blue. So what we're talking about, and well, let me just continue. So then what we have here is, this was our concept plan when we first did our annexation and preliminary plat. And you can see the way it has developed is consistent with that. With our final plat, we did all of the improvements. So does this work? I don't know if that works good. So you can see the sidewalks along this road, Montague here, all of the sidewalks, both sides of Mount Etna, and then Kubola. So all of the sidewalks and street trees were installed for the entire 40 acres, all the public improvements, and then the large landscape setbacks along Eagle Road and Mount Etna. And these 4 lots are the lots that we're talking about tonight. So of the total, the property is that we're looking at is roughly 5%. Of the commercial area, it's 12.5%. So just to give you that context there. The preliminary plat was approved again in February of 2017. The development agreement was recorded in May of 2017. Albertsons opened in June of 2022, and all of these improvements were done with that. And the final plat then, with all those improvements, was recorded in October of 2022. Let's see here. Here's just a few of the existing site photos that you can see. This one on the left is looking north on Eagle Road, and the one on the right is looking west on Mount Etna. And that is in your staff report. And here again is just the area in green is what we're here for tonight, that 12.5% of the commercial property. And then just to show you the preliminary plat and then the final plat. So just wanted to give you some context of where we've been and where we're going. During the entitlement process, we did do a layout on the residential. The residential has never been submitted other than just zoning the property. It's currently still owned by Albertsons. The balance of the commercial has been purchased by Broman, and Aaron will discuss that. But we just wanted to show you on that north property line, you can see here, one of the conditions was to line those up. So when a preliminary plat does come in for the residential, those need to be lined up 1-to-1 so that those northern, the existing homes and the new homes will be comparable. And so what the main thing I wanted to show you here is what that does on that end for the cul-de-sac is it really doesn't lend itself to have any houses there with the way that that cul-de-sac needs to go with having those lots the same size on the one-to-one for the existing and the new. And then again, that's that side. So I will turn it over to Aaron here.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commission. My name is Aaron Zuzak. I'm the Vice President of Broman Development Company. Broman Development Company is a family-owned, long-term owner and operator of retail properties. We take pride in our developments. We're not a merchant builder or developer that is looking to build and sell our properties. We manage everything in-house. We are here to invest in the community and to provide the best-in-class grocery-anchored neighborhood shopping center. Chase Bank will not only provide essential financial services, but also generate employment opportunities for the community. The bank is synergistic with the existing development, and our goal is to complement the bank with an adjacent development on that northern parcel as well. We started our journey in involvement in Forenza Plaza over 3 years ago. We purchased the property from Albertsons in early 2022. And since then, we've constructed and helped construct and finish the Albertsons and open it in June of 22. We've also constructed 4 additional high-quality retail and commercial buildings on site. We worked very hard to enhance the quality of the development by bringing best-in-class tenants and setting a new standard by enhancing the architectural design of the development. I've personally spent a great deal of time ensuring that the design theme of the shopping center, the architectural standards throughout the shopping center are of the highest quality. We're excited to deliver to the community great tenants and public spaces that can be enjoyed by the neighborhood and the community. The DA modification process has really been a long road for us. We've been working on this for well over 250 days. We first had our pre-app meeting in early November with the city of last year, and we've been fortunate to work with staff and appreciate staff's thoughtful analysis of the application. And we're in agreement with all of the conditions except for 2 concerns raised by staff regarding certain aspects of our proposal. And, first, I'd like to address the concern regarding the location of the driveway. We're requesting the relocation of the driveway for a couple of reasons. Number one, we believe that the relocation of this driveway will help divert traffic away from the building entrances in the proposed development, minimizing potential conflict between customers, vehicles, and pedestrians directly in front of these buildings and businesses. This driveway is our only access to both properties. We have no other access to the property other than from Mount Etna, and it's currently 219 feet from Eagle Road. We're requesting to move it an additional 89 feet, which will be a total of 308 feet from Eagle Road. The relocation of the driveway is actually going to provide an additional 89 feet of additional sight distance for vehicles leaving the property so that they could see they'll have better visibility of vehicles coming on to Mount Etna from Eagle. In our experience, direct cross-access driveways on public streets can at times be challenging for drivers to navigate the crossroad to access one site to the other, trying to get across multiple lanes of traffic. So having an offsetting opposing driveway can at times be easier to navigate. In addition, the driveway relocation has been approved by ACHD, and the relocation meets all of ACHD's policies and development standards. ACHD stated in their findings of consideration 3.1C that the applicant's proposal meets district policy and should be approved as proposed. We respectfully request to modify condition A1, 2.8, and 2.8A to allow the development to proceed with the relocated driveway. The second concern I want to address is city staff has expressed disapproval of the second drive-through use as shown on site plan A for the north parcel and our development agreement modification application proposal. While we respect their concerns, we're really only requesting to modify the development agreement document to provide flexibility for multiple site configurations and allow uses under the CC zoning designation. The city will retain full discretionary approval through the existing conditional use permit process for any future drive-through use on that north parcel. So we respectfully request to modify condition A1.1A to keep both concept plan A and B in the development agreement modification. In conclusion, I respectfully request that the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of our development agreement modification and conditional use permit application for Chase Bank with the minor changes as I presented. I'm available here to answer any questions, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Commissioners, any questions? I do have a question real quick. Sorry.
No, you're good.
I'll get back to you. On the Chase Bank and having the two different drive-throughs, I tend to agree that having too many drive-throughs in one location is not a good idea. If anybody wants to partake in Costco, you'll see why. And I've been to several Chase Bank locations that don't have a drive-through. Is that a possibility here, or are they just, is that what they want in that location?
It is what they want in the location. I think, you know, the world has changed since the pandemic, and I think that it's imperative to have that amenity to have a drive-through ATM. It's a, you know, drive-throughs are challenging. You know, there's so many different types of drive-throughs. It's hard to fit every drive-through in one bucket, right? And in one box. And that's why there's a conditional use permit process, right? Because not every drive-through can fit in the same category. You can have, you know, de minimis drive-throughs like ATMs where there's not a lot of stacking, where you can also have drive-throughs that are extreme stacking situations. We don't know what the user is going to be on that northern parcel, but we want to avoid going through the development agreement modification process again, because it is a 250-day process when you start from start to finish between drafting plans up and going to the pre-application meetings and then actually submitting. It's a very lengthy process that is challenging, whereas the city already has the mechanism in their hand to use the conditional use permit process to have the discretionary approval of, you know, accepting or denying a drive-through.
Okay.
I could just add there, it really is just being transparent that we don't know what that north parcel is going to be, and just adding that flexibility there. It's not tying the city's hands that that they have to approve a conditional use permit for that. It's just being transparent that we may ask for one in the future, and we didn't want to have to go through the development agreement modification process. So that was the intent behind that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else, commissioners?
Mr. Chair. So the northern or the southern parcel is going to be the bank, Chase Bank. And so you don't have a tenant for the one that's closer to Albertsons. That's what you're saying, correct?
We do not, so we don't have a tenant for the northern building. Yeah, parcel.
Right,
And it, you know, we vision that to either be a multi-tenant retail style building, but honestly, today we don't know.
Right. I mean, your concept works as long as it's not like in and out, because then you've got so much things going around in circles, you're not going to be able to handle anything. As far as the expenses are concerned to move the utilities, is that something your organization's willing to take on?
Absolutely. It's part of the development process. So it's something that we fully know going into this process, that all the costs are borne on the development.
And ACHD gave you their blessing to move the entrance to your commercial parcel 89 feet further back.
Correct. Yeah, the standard, I believe, for offsetting opposing driveways is 75 feet from each other, and we exceed that at 89 feet.
And there'll be a center turn lane in between, or it'll
There
just
is.
be 2 lanes?
There's a center turn lane in between.
Okay. I'm good, thanks.
I'm sorry, I
Go
just
ahead.
have to say something. So the utilities, the pipes are in the ground, but they've never been used. So I think that's important that, you know, there's pipes in the ground, but they've not been connected to anything at this point.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess there's a question for staff regarding if they're willing to pay for the utility and the moving of that, then I'm fine with that. My only remaining question is that cross access that was discussed, and I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yes, Commission. So the cross access was put in, it was part of the approved preliminary plat and final plat for Ferenc Plaza subdivision. So that was something that was required with that. We do require cross access when we do plats and commercial developments, that we get that cross access is for people to not have to go back out onto the main roads. And that's why we require the cross access, and that was the location that was approved with that development. And that's why staff does not want it to move, because there are, even though things may not be hooked up yet, but there are easements, city easements there. The utilities are in there. So that is why we didn't want it, the access point moved.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Marshall, go ahead.
For staff again, so would they, for this development agreement, would they ask for a variance to not have it directly across so that it's more like of a S turn? So if I'm coming out of Albertsons, you're suggesting that I want to go straight across whatever this annex road is to get to Chase Bank, as opposed to coming out, turning left, and then turning right again. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Good.
I guess it's not a question, it's more of a statement. A clarification, if you will.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
looking at, sorry, I'm trying to find the right page in the proposal. If I'm looking at kind of this map, if I'm going from Albertsons and I'm trying to go to Chase, this is a question for staff. I don't really want to cross that close to Eagle, to be honest. I would prefer going, I think it's Kubola, is the road parallel with Eagle to the west, is the lower road. Is there a possibility for us to act? Like, I guess my question is, has there been some analysis done on the thought of letting them move this, and then when whatever's developed to their immediate west, you know, creating not a stub, but an ability to cross access with that development. So someone coming from Albertsons could go northbound into Kubola, into whatever the parking lot is for that development that would be there, and then come into Chase without having to cross immediately next to Eagle. I think that's just my issue is I understand the cross access aspect, but I don't know that I would want to be going that straight across that close to potential impact point.
So Commission, the access straight across there goes into the residential area. That's the R8 residential area there.
That is, sorry, is R8 immediately to the west of the development?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, never mind. I retract, sorry.
Sorry, I'm not following. So the area in red on here is the property that we're talking about. Can you see that red X
Yeah, I
there?
was floating an idea that now I see doesn't make sense, so.
So, and I also want to say, I'm not sure what the cross access has anything to do, because these are public roads, which ACHD has jurisdiction of. So I wasn't following your,
Yeah, I guess, so with the caveat that it doesn't look like it's feasible, my thought was allowing this movement, and then for ability to kind of navigate a little bit better from Albertsons, being able to go north on Kubola, and then if there were an ability to turn then right into that parking lot. from whatever is developed there in the future. Not feasible, I see now, but that's kind of where my head was at, so.
If you don't mind, I actually think moving the driveway is going to be easier for vehicles to maneuver there. And the reason I say that is because if you're coming out of the Albertson Center, there's a lot happening right there at that intersection coming off of Eagle Road, and cars are coming off of Eagle, and you have to then try to jump 2 lanes of traffic plus the turn lane in the middle while all these vehicles are moving. Whereas you can come out of the driveway into that center turn lane and wait for vehicles to pass that are coming off of Eagle, and then take a right into our proposed Chase development. So I think, moving this actually is safer for a number of reasons, and that's one of them. The other is that if you're leaving the Chase development, having that extra 90 feet of vision, of sight vision, you can see vehicles, that are coming on to Mount Etna easier. And the third thing I'd say is that there are a lot of ways to access the site. You can exit out of Albertsons a little bit further west in front of one of our other multi-tenant shop buildings that we just built, and then make a right, and then you'd be able to make a left into the Chase site. So there's a number of different ways to access it. So at the end, I think moving it actually provides a safer configuration.
Or anything?
So the proposal is for the DA modification, which goes to city council, is to offer both options. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what we're voting on tonight?
Correct.
And then
Essentially, if we would need to modify, we would need a modification to the motion in order to allow for that. Staff has said that they do not want option A included. Or concept A included. They would like that stricken. So if we would like to give them the opportunity to have concept A and concept B go to city council, we'll need to make sure that that's mentioned in
the motion.
Mhm.
And it's your wish that both concepts be presented to city council, and you'll accept whichever one they decide on, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And that, in addition to modifying the conditions to allow us to move the driveway, because condition A1 had stated that within 15 days prior to the city council hearing, the applicant shall provide a revised concept plan that shows the property access in the existing location. We would request to strike that from the conditions of approval so that we have, so that we can move the driveway as proposed on the site plan.
Yeah, I think that's probably city council's decision. And then the second part is to allow the development agreement to offer 2 drive-throughs, correct? Isn't that the second thing we're kind of voting on? That's not the CUP, is it?
No, that's essentially the 2 things in contention right now are either the concept A or concept B. Concept A is the drive-through or not a drive-through on the northern bound property. And then the second piece is the moving the entrance.
All right, thank you. Just needed to clarify.
So just to clarify, it's not option A or B, it's option A and B. So in the future, whatever that ends up being, we don't have to come back for a modification.
DA modification,
Yeah.
because there's already the conditional use permit process, which will, vet the drive-through use.
Commissioner Sandoval, do you have anything to add or any questions?
No questions.
Okay,
Commissioner.
right ahead.
I noticed that in the red line strike through for the DA modification, the applicant had stricken through the R8 zoning, and I think that was a mistake. Your red line strike through version that you sent in to staff. So I think that was a mistake that you guys struck out that the R8 zoning on that document. I just wanted to make sure that that is left in the DA, that you're not trying to take that out. Okay.
We're not trying to make any changes to the residential zoning.
Okay, so the only thing that we are is just updating the owners and just the 4 lots here.
Yeah, and frankly, the only thing we were trying to update exactly on this entire development agreement modification was just this 2-acre piece of the entire development. We're not proposing to make any other changes other than just the 2 acres.
Anything further, commissioners? Real quick, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do.
Okay, thank you.
We do have Joy Livingston that signed up online. I don't see her name on Zoom.
We have anybody online that would like to testify? If so, please hit the raise hand button. Quite a few people online tonight. Anybody in chambers want to testify at all?
Mr. Chair, Romero Gervais.
Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
Perfect. My name is Romeo Gervais. I live at 3019 East Fratello Street, the residential immediately north of this project. As Tamara said, I guess I'd like to start with a little history too. So when I moved into this area, there was goose hunting in my backyard and geese falling out of it was the county line. So it's changed quite a bit in the years and certainly to be expected, I think, with development and growth of the city. As staff had mentioned, and I think both staff and the applicant had kind of addressed, one of my big concerns with the DA modification was the red line proposal in the documents online. I think it's been pretty well put on the record here that the intention is not to change some of the requirements. But if you look in the records on the file on page 3 and 4 of the DA red line modification, the applicant had stricken conditions 5D, H, I, J, and L. And I'm not in support of that modification. So it sounds like everybody is in agreement that that's not really part of the proposal, but just putting that on the record that those conditions are tied to that R8 zoning and then the interfaces between the existing residential and the development. So the other thing I guess I would mention is I do support staff's comments with the removal of the second drive-through or C1, if you will, plan sheet C1. That drive-through, when we initially came in with this subdivision, it was intended to be a kind of a neighborhood office, if you will. It was kind of proposed as doctor's offices, things like that, kind of a lower use, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday kind of use. Not necessarily opposed to injecting some of the retail or even the bank. The bank maintains those same hours. Not really that opposed to a drive-through ATM. I think once again, low usage. But as that site plan to the north would potentially propose that additional drive-through, I think there is some use conflict that it creates or could create that I don't think was intended with the initial development, if you will, with an office use. So going from, cornfield, the state residential kind of in the comp plan when I bought my lot to now a mixed use, at least a compatible R8 with office, now going to some mixed use retail. Okay, but going all the way to in and out, probably not supported, or definitely not supported by me. So that would be a couple of different things there. I do support staff's comments with regards to the access location. I have no opinion, so whatever you guys so decide with that. I don't know that it's a big deal. The other component with the DA site plan that I guess I would ask for is it's currently showing 3 different dumpster locations, 2 kind of on the merged joint lot line, 1 up on the north, closer to the residential. Being so close, it's 250 feet or so to existing residential. I get worried about dumping and things like that. So, and I apologize, I'm probably going over my time, but I have a laundry list of stuff. I do agree or appreciate the landscaping and the 25-foot buffer yards. But as they did with the final plat, I would ask that they continue that or put in that entire fencing around the whole lot now. As this, when that Chase Bank comes in, it's going to create that use. And once again, I think is pertinent to the CUP for the Chase Bank where it's impacting the residences right now. So I would ask that that landscaping be added there. And with that, I guess I'd stand for any questions.
No questions, but there are going to be empty seats on the commission. I invite you to apply with that. Thank you. I really do appreciate citizenry that pays attention to the finer details, and that was very detailed.
It may be part of my day job, Commissioners.
That's okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
Madam Clerk,
Chair,
anyone else?
we have a Mark. I apologize. I don't want to mess this name up. The Coolidge.
No? Anyone else? No? Anyone else want to testify? Going once, going twice. Anybody online? Haven't seen anybody hit the raise hand button. All right, with that, the applicant like to come back up for any rebuttals?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think I'd like to potentially explain, I think, the confusion on the DA red lines. When we applied for this, there was some confusion on whether or not this should be a new development agreement because, you know, we are one owner inside of a master plan per se of Albertson still retains ownership of the residential. We have ownership of the retail shopping center. And so when I redlined the document, I was trying to create, I mean, I provided our comments to the city staff, and I was trying to cater it more towards just the 2 acres, because that's all we were trying to do is modify the 2 acres. So I just wanted to clarify that component to it of the confusion.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Mr. Smith, do you have something on that?
Yeah, I did have one question regarding the dumpsters that was brought up. I figured since we're doing this, might as well just see if there's an opportunity to clean anything up. Regarding, I know there's fencing proposed, et cetera, but regarding the proximity on the northernmost dumpster location, but also considering the fact that west of this, there would be additional residential property, are those set in stone, or are we envisioning potentially moving them away from residential properties? Would that be kosher for us to, would that be amenable for us to include some language around that?
So I think, well, the dumpster for the southern half, the Chase Bank side, is something that's the location that fits very well and complementary to the circulation of their facility. It's also, you know, relatively de minimis in terms of what's being, you know, used there. And, you know, we also, you know, to address the concerns about illegal dumping, we manage everything in-house. We have property managers that are very diligent, and that's something that we don't accept. And if if there is illegal dumping, we get rid of it as quickly as possible. It's something we don't, you know, there's a few things in our company that are really important to us, and that is one of them. As it relates to the site plan and the location of the dumpsters on the northern half, that's something that I envision would be vetted through the conditional use permit process. When that does come forward, those locations would be heavily, looked at in compatibility to the development that we're proposing at that time. So to answer your question, I think, yes, there is some flexibility. We don't know who the user is. It's definitely not in and out, so, but we don't have a user today. And at that, when we have that user, that's when we would, present a site plan, through that process, and we could work on it then.
Thank you.
Quick, one final, Kurt, go ahead. I just had a question on as I'm conceptualizing the property in general, would you consider moving Chase Bank north?
No, I think that's something that they feel very strongly about, that they want to be at that location. It's predicated on the deal moving forward, to be honest with you.
Okay. That just would solve a lot of the issues that we're talking about
Yeah.
immediately. So just had to ask.
Understood, understood.
Kurt, you had something to add?
With your permission, I had a quick clarifying question for the applicant. And you had a screen, one of your screens up just a moment ago that showed your proposed changes to the DA language. Can you pull it up one more time real quick? Perfect. I just want to clarify with the applicant, near the top third of the page where it inserts Plan A and B, that's your proposed change, correct?
Yes, sir.
I just want to confirm, I think, and I think your colleague mentioned this, but I think, would that make sense to have Plan A or B? And really, you can't do both. It's one or the other, correct?
That is correct. It's one or the other, but we would respectfully request to have both plans included in the DA modification so that we have flexibility to, have multiple options when it comes to the future development of that northern parcel.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I understand that 100%. I'm just saying from sort of a grammatical and technical perspective to accomplish the goal you just mentioned, I think that language needs to say that consistent with with concept plan A or B. That gives you the possibility of one or the other, but you can't, it's not possible to do both, right? It's one or the other.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll collaborate with you between now and city council.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add, at least give Aaron some assurances since he's bringing up the DA process. It really isn't that complicated. And I'm sorry that it's taken this long to get you here. But in my experience with DA modifications, the city attorney's office will prepare that document. And if you are successful in achieving an and/or concept plan, then both those concepts plans will be attached to the new DA. That would be subject to the 2-acre parcel. So we'll have you covered either way, Aaron. So it really should say or, but again, we can, if the commission feels like they want to make that recommendation tonight, we'll certainly change that as we transition to city council.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Commissioners, anything further? No? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And with that, I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2024-0007 for Friends Plaza.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2024-0007. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Public hearing is closed. I'll jump in real quick on this one. So as far as the concept A and B, I understand the reasoning behind keeping both of those in there. I understand the desire to not have that, but I don't think that we want to cut them off at the knees on that one at this point in time. There might be something that goes in there. God forbid it actually be in and out. But there may be a use case that goes in there that nobody's thought of yet, that we all go, wow, I really wish that could go in there. We just can't do it because of something that was excluded. So I don't know what that might be, but I hope it comes to Meridian. On moving the drive, the drive aisle there, the entrance, I understand the idea that if we offset it, that it becomes easier. That is one side of the argument, but the reasoning behind having that direct access is you have eye contact. So when I'm going out and I'm coming in, I've got eye contact with somebody. I know what they're doing across the street from me. They know what my intentions are as well. Where if you have 3 offsets in a very, very short amount of time, you're just going to have everybody going to the same place all at the same time. So I think that is a consideration that we need to make. Generally speaking, I'm kind of supportive of staff. As I've been educated over the years, I have my own opinions, and as I'm educated on things, I learned that there's a lot of good reasons for some of the regulations that we have that we haven't always thought of. So that's a consideration for me on that. As far as getting to that, following Commissioner Smith's logic, to be honest, if I had to go to the bank over there, that's exactly the route I would take. I would go behind Albertsons or to to the west, and I would come around the other way, just so I didn't have to cut all the way across in order to get there. So, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, Albertsons put their entrances and exits where they are. We do have, specifics in the code that kind of regulate that. So I would be more apt to support staff in that decision. Other than that, wish you all the luck in the world on this. Glad to see more development for businesses coming into Meridian.
Mr. Chair.
Go right ahead.
Again, for the second time tonight, I think I'm exactly flipped at where you're at. Although I don't, I don't feel so strongly about it that it needs to be some certain way. I do tend to support the moving of that entrance to the property. I think that makes sense to me, with the understanding that I'm more of a layman and I haven't probably had this many of those conversations. Just intuitively, that kind of makes a little more sense to my head. But my thought around concept A versus B is, my only thought is, there is something that were to go in there. They still could approach it with another DA mod, if I'm not mistaken. And I almost am wondering if the intention is to probably have something that's not a drive-through in there, if it's worth adding an extra step of scrutiny with a DA mod, if they were to put a drive-through in there. So again, I don't feel super strongly in either of these. I'm generally in support of the application either way. But those are just some thoughts of kind of where my head's at the moment.
Commissioner Lorcher, Commissioner Sandoval,
Mr. Chair,
right ahead.
not knowing who the north client is going to be, I feel like is a hindrance to make a good choice as far as whether or not to offer 2 drive-throughs or not. I mean, one could be a dry cleaner, or it could be, I think there was a Jersey Mike's, but it could be a Subway. It could be, it could be anything, right? It could be something high volume. It could be something very low volume. And that's the challenge that I have. But also understanding and acknowledging your comment, since the pandemic, the way we manage our business and whether we eat or we dine or we bank or whatever we do is definitely more in our cars. And I don't see that going away anytime soon. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one as well. I think the best thing to do at this point is to provide city council with as many options as possible. And I understand staff's concern for the drive-through or the drive across where it connects, but I also see the value of it being staggered. So I would be in favor of, with the DA modification, to say plan A or B, to recommend it for city council.
Okay. Commissioner Sandoval, anything to add?
Yeah, sure. So to me, it actually makes sense to have the offset so people aren't trying to jet across both lanes at the same time quickly. Again, I think that's a good option to move forward. And as far as the north end of the site, it looks like it's going to be residential. And if it is right now, at least it's going to be open space. They'll probably put, adequate screening. That'll be a consideration if there is a drive-through there. So I think we should leave both options, A and B, or B, however you want to word it, to city council.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
You ready to make a motion?
I more have a question for Lorcher, just to make sure I'm on the same page. Commissioner Lorcher, was your intention to keep, so A or B, but keep staff's recommendation to leave the drive out where it is? Or did you have thoughts?
I actually don't have a preference. So, I mean, if it's a rule, then we should follow those rules. But, You know, grocery store parking lots can get a little crazy, especially with all the retail that they have around here. Personally, I'd do what you would do. I would go around the back and kind of come around because I personally wouldn't want to shoot across. But that's me, and I don't like turning left either, so, or driving at night, so, no, don't count me as like a normal driver. But, I mean, if it was me, I would probably like it staggered just because that was more of a sight line away from Eagle Road. But if it's a rule in the city that says we want that cross access, then, and this is the only exception in the city, then we should follow that rule. So I don't know if there's other exceptions to it or not.
Bill?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, in this particular case, there isn't a rule for that act. Well, there's a rule for that access is that they take access from a local street, which they're doing. So them keeping the curb cut where it is or moving it is not violating any rule. In our world, and as you mentioned, Chairman, it's just best practice to have driveways aligned. That's what we're trying to do. And since the utilities are already there, you know, we want to be cognizant of our public works partners that we're not making sure no one's encroaching or impacting those utilities that are underground. That's why we're having the discussion with you on keeping the curb cut. But there is no zoning ordinance rule that says he can't move that because he's still taking access from a local street. Now, on the cross-access issue, the applicant owns the property. So technically, there is no cross-access. He can't grant himself access. He owns both properties. But when looking at the recorded plat, there's CC&Rs in place that speak to how that cross-access is to occur in the development. And we don't get copies of the CC&R. So I'm only bringing this up just to let the developer know that if it does get sold in the future, that's something that may have to be addressed if one of those parcels sells off. And someone comes to the city and asks us about cross-access, we're going to be like, you need to pull the CC&Rs and see how it's spelled out. Just for the record to make it clear on that. So long story short is if you want them to, if you support their request to remove that, the applicants provided you the guidance to do that. If you want to side with staff, again, they're in front of your recommending body tonight, so council will have another bite at the apple to discuss relocation and the two concept plans as you've already discussed.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification on that. If there's no more questions, I'm more than happy to take.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
I got one. I think just some context, I think, because this is more of a recommendation and city council can take it or modify it or, I think I'll go with kind of where it seems like the room is at the moment. So with that being said, after considering all staff, applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the city council file number H-2024-0007 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of July 18th, 2024, with a modification to allow concept plan A or B, or A and B, or whatever that language is, and to allow the applicant to go forward with the offsetting of the driveway per their request.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of file number H-2024-0007 for Ferenz Plaza with the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the time on this. And with that, we will go back to item number 3. Which is the Planning and Zoning Commission elections. I will be stepping down as chair. And so we need to elect a new chair. And if that happens to be Maria, then we will also elect a vice chair. And I'm not it.
There's not a lot of people here tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've, put thought into this and Commissioner Sandoval is brand new and still learning the ropes. we have some folks that have indicated that their time is going to be tough to fulfill on planning and zoning as well. Some of those folks are not with us tonight as well. So if I'm making a recommendation or a motion, then likely I will go with the experience of the commission so far, and that would be with Commissioner Lorcher as president. And I mean, with that, my next recommendation would be Commissioner Smith be the assistant chair. That's kind of where I'm at with things, and I'm more than welcome to discuss all of that.
Are you nodding that that would be in agreement with you?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I'm anticipating being on this commission for the foreseeable future.
So what do we do next?
Do I get to make the motion for this? Do I get to make a motion, Kurt?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, any of the commissioners can make a motion, including the chair. So whoever would like to make the motion, I know it's somewhat awkward if you're part of the motion, but you can do that as well. There's no prohibition against that. So whichever commissioner would like to make a motion, that would be appropriately or would be fine. And whether that's you, Mr. Chairman, or someone else.
Okay, I'd love to do this. It's not all about me. I move that Commissioner Lorcher is the next chair of the commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to elect Commissioner Lorcher as chair of Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that, I also make a motion to elect Commissioner Smith as the vice chair for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to elect Commissioner Smith as the vice chair of Planning and Zoning. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Welcome to the assistant chair position. So, good deal. And I don't know if there's anything that the two of you officially need to do. Maria's already well-versed in what needs to happen in pre-meetings and things like that. And so I will let her pass that education on to you and your new duties. Kurt, was there something you wanted to add? No? Okay, I saw you hit the button, so I'm quick draw on this one. And with that, I will take one more motion.
Mr. Chair, I motion we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.